Guys, quick disclaimer here. This video is recorded on my microphone. It's the first time I tried to do it, so sometimes when I clap in my hands, there are some loud noises, so don't get scared. And also, when I was rewatching this video, I realized that I mess up some names of the family members. So yeah, I know it, and I hope that it won't disturb you too much. Okay? Let's move to the video. Hey all true crime lovers, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Also, some of my social medias will be linked down below in the description. Enjoy this video. So today's case takes place in Texas, and it's extremely interesting from the psychological point of view, as long as until today it remains a mystery if this woman really committed this crime and if she really did this. Before this video, I should put a trigger warning disclaimer that this case is about child abuse and child killing. I'm worried for your mental condition, so if you can take this, then you can skip to my other videos. Just take care of your mental condition anytime. So let's start from the background, and it's actually not much information is placed on the internet about Darlie Lynn and her husband Darren. It is known that they became school sweethearts and soon married. They had 3 kids, Damon, Devin, and Drake. They were happy family. They had a small business, something related to computers. Actually, Darren had this business. It's actually a very fun fact that all of their names start from D. Maybe it's just their highlight of their family or their special point to name all of their kids started from D. The story happens on 6th of June in 1996. Darlie was sleeping with her 2 sons, Damon, who was aged 5 at that time, and Devin, who was 6 years old. Darlie and her sons were sleeping in the living room as long as it was a very hot day, and they were trying to escape from heat. Darren has slept with their 7-month-old son Drake upstairs. Devin and Damon were sleeping on the floor, while Darlie was sleeping on the couch because she has watched TV and she fell asleep. She was tired. So when I was reading this story, it was the first thing that was strange to me, as long as why they all weren't sleeping in the living room if it was that hot. But we will return later to this thought when I will say what happened. Darlie was asleep, but suddenly she woke up to see the intruder in her house, and then she turned to her sons. She saw that they were brutally attacked and brutally stabbed, and they were almost dying. As Darlie remembers during her trial, she woke up very suddenly, and when she saw the intruder, she followed him in the utility room. As it is stated, the intruder came to the house from the garage, and when they were discovering it later, they saw that one of the huge windows in the garage was opened. So police thought that maybe it was the way how intruder got into the house. Darlie said that she saw the intruder dropping his knife, and this knife was the weapon of murder. And when she saw this knife, she took this and put it on the table, and it is the moment when she probably could leave her fingerprints on this knife, leading the police to an accusation that Darlie was actually the killer of her kid. The murder weapon was a knife from the Routier's kitchen. However, not only Darlie's children were injured, Darlie also had an injury on her arm, and her children had their throats cut. Obviously, Darlie couldn't chase the intruder, so she called the police, and one of the police officers came to the scene. Then she made a phone call to the police station, which lasted almost 6 minutes, and 30 seconds of this call you can hear Devin at the background and also the police officer at the background. Darlie was told to take care after one of her sons, Damon, who was highly injured, but he was still alive. But as it is stated during the trial, she just wasn't concerned of helping her son, and she didn't do it the proper way. which actually is quite weird to me. Your son is dying. Of course, I understand that she was at the shock condition and she was highly injured, but still, her son was alive and she could help him. But she just didn't do it. Why? That is the question. I would actually put a piece of this phone call into this video.
Hang on. Hang on, ma'am. I'm on medical emergency, 6801 Eagle Drive. Ma'am, I'm trying to get an ambulance.
In the recording, you can hear Darlie asking why the ambulance takes so long to come to their house. While she was waiting for the ambulance, she went to the kitchen and collected 2 towels to put it on the boys. The officer who came to the scene first didn't check the garage in case the intruder was still there. Also, he didn't make first aid help for Darlie and the boy who was still alive. Sadly, Damon died on the way to the hospital, and Darlie was injured so hard that the cut on her neck was 2 millimeters away from the carotid artery. Darlie was placed at Baylor University Medical Care and she survived. Photographers started to work at the crime scene and they made a few photos of fingerprints. They found fingerprints all across the house, and also some of them were in the garage, and also they found a boot print in the garage. Among people who were investigating this case was James Crone, who was a retirement police officer. He came to the scene at almost 6 a.m. and when he was walking through the house, the first thing that he said was, "It doesn't seem that there was any intruders here." Outside the house, criminalists found a sock that contained both Davin and Damon's blood on it, and was soon figured out that this sock was Darren's sock. Remember Darren? He's the husband of Darlie. The Routier family said that they kept all the dirty socks in the utility room, and probably the intruder could take this sock from the utility room. However, there is no blood around the sock, and you can think there, why the intruder took the sock? It's actually really strange, just a random sock from the utility room. In the house, actually, a lot of subjects such as pieces of clothing, pieces of decor were moved around, and probably the criminalists had moved it. And later they said that there isn't much information they can see from the photos that were taken by criminalists. So as you can understand, the crime scene was just a mess, but even in this mess, police just found it really weird how the intruder came and didn't leave any traces of him. So while Darlie was being asked, she was actually given Demetrol and Phenergan, and you can actually think there too, why police officers started to ask her while she was under medicines, as long as she couldn't have her mind clear, how she could remember last night's events. She was in shock, and also she was from the surgery, and she gave her testimonies. So just why did police felt appropriate to ask a person who is under the medicines, strong medicines, and she could literally just change the facts in her head, and she just couldn't think clear. So while she was being asked, she actually tried to describe the person, the intruder, who she saw, and she said that it was a white male, a tall white male, and he wore all black clothes, and definitely this description wasn't very full, as long as he was stabbing her and her children, so she just couldn't describe him well. 2 days after the events, Darlie was released from the hospital, and on the 8th of June as well, there was a funeral of Damon and Davin. Some of the detectives actually said that for them it didn't seem that Darlie was grieving about their children. She was more just without any feelings, it seemed like. However, the pastor who was there at the funeral said that she was grieving appropriately and she just seemed a grieving mother. So the police already had serious doubts about Darlie's involvement in this case, as long as they didn't find any serious traces of intruder. Also, they found the fact that Darlie took a knife that was a murder weapon and put it on the table, leaving her fingerprints. Just why would she do this? When she was tracing an intruder, she didn't have the time for small details like this, but she took the knife and left it. Also, this sock that was found. Why the intruder needed to take the sock from the utility room, something just doesn't add up. During her other testimonies, Darlie was changing her story, and it was also making police doubting. There was especially one interesting moment when I was watching the documentary. Darlie said that she was very sensitive to any noises. She could hear actually everything in her sleep, and she could wake up to almost every noise. But then, if there was an intruder and she came to the house, there should be some noises. However, Darlie didn't hear it, and she was not even upstairs, she was downstairs in the living room. Another fact is that Darlie, as you remember, was stabbed during her sleep, so she was on the pillow and on the couch, but there weren't blood traces there. It seemed like she was stabbed in the other place. So guys, I forgot to mention one fact from Darlie's interrogation. She claimed that she ran barefoot in the kitchen and called for help. Meanwhile, the kitchen floor was littered with broken glass, but there were no wounds on Darlie's legs. Davin should have a birthday after some days of the events, and the Routier family decided that it would be actually a great idea if they make a birthday party during the service. So you just can think for yourself here. What grieving family that lost 2 children, mother of which were stabbed? She could almost die. How? Like, what the hell? How they just came up to the idea to make a birthday party at a service? Witnesses from the relatives of the Routier's family at this party said that the Routier family just pulled up a happy face because they thought that it would be a great idea and that Davin wanted it. However, other people who were at this party said that Darlie didn't seem grieving at all. She was happy. It seems like she had this ease at her. And when police saw the recordings of this party, of course it was being filmed, they started to dig into the history of this family to understand more. And it is the moment when they started to find things that were apart from the happy family life. The last few months, Routier family had serious problems. They were in debt, and the computer business that was successful, as the Routier family was saying, it wasn't successful at all. They had debts more than on $10,000, and the Routier's marriage was falling apart. In fact, Darlie wanted to divorce from Darren. Police found Darlie's diaries where she was writing about her depression, and that her depression didn't go even when her children were born. Depression got even worse when their business started to fall apart, and she wanted to leave Darren, but Darren didn't want this. Depending on these facts, police had enough evidence to claim that Darlie was the one who killed her children because of financial difficulties. Darlie Routier's trial began on January 6 in 1997 in Texas, Kerrville. The prosecution claimed that the reason why Darlie killed her children were financial difficulties, and also this video, this birthday party video, the silly string. They also testified that the scene inside the house was staged. Furthermore, the defense asked why she didn't kill her husband that had his life insurance. almost on $800,000. And if they had these huge money problems, why didn't she kill their 7-month-old son, Drake? So definitely the defense was sure that she wasn't innocent because she didn't have a motive, like a clear motive for this. Routier's blood wasn't found in the garage and outside the house. Remember the sock? The sock only had two sons' blood on it. However, on February 1st, Darlie was convicted of murdering her son Damon, and she was sentenced to death by lethal injection. This lawyer brought up quite an interesting idea about who the killer could be, and he claimed that the killer was Darlie's husband. So as I've mentioned, family had financial problems and Darlie wanted to leave Darren, but obviously Darren couldn't make this happen. Darren and Drake were the ones who weren't injured, and the Routier family claimed that probably it was a robbery, but nothing was taken, nothing was stolen, and the two of them weren't injured. But if the intruder wanted to rob them, why he injured only Darlie and two children? Because he may know that there were another people in the house, and especially the man who is much stronger than all of the members of the family. Darren was sure that his wife didn't kill his children. However, they divorced after all the events, and Darren, he had a motive for this. But why Darlie didn't say anything in court if this was Darren? During Darlie's trial, Darren had a polygraph test, and he failed all the questions, all the general questions like, was he upstairs? Did he help Darlie? And so on and so on and so on. However, he never was a serious suspect, and Darlie took all the accusations of killing the boys. And actually, remember the sock? It was Darren's sock. However, it doesn't help Darlie that much, and still she's waiting for her sentence. The case is very famous, and there are plenty of books, plenty of movies, documentaries that regard this case. So guys, that's all for today's video. I hope you liked it. I tried to cover this case completely, but still it remains mystery. Who did this? Why? Is Darlie innocent or not? Also, I would like you to suggest other video ideas, other cases that I can cover on my channel. So I will be waiting for your comments. See you soon. Bye.